As a real estate investor, it's really important to be able to get a clear picture of your investment property, especially when it comes to rentals on an ongoing basis, or you want to look back over the last 12 months and see how your property has performed and really analyze if it's still the best place for your cash. If you should, tap into the equity through a refinance or an investment HELOC, maybe go buy another one. That's why we decided to partner with Lineage for all of our property management clients. They'll be able to view all of their properties data inside of Lineage's platform. And the reason I like it so much is it helps you analyze the tax benefits, obviously the ongoing just return, and it helps you explore other areas within the property that you might be able to exploit to have other advantages outside of just owning that specific rental property. And sometimes owning rental properties can be tough. You have 1 month go by where you have to spend $6,000 on a brand new AC unit, and you feel like you wiped out the entire year's net income. So this helps keep a longer perspective view on your rental property, see the equity that you've built over time through principal pay down and everything, and just keep a clear perspective. So we don't, on a month-to-month basis, just feel like you always want to sell the property, or you go 3 months and it feels good, and then you have another tough month. So it helps you keep perspective. And so that's where we're excited to launch this to our clients. And we wanted to showcase the interview with Lineage to show you how the platform works and use a real life example of my old primary residence in Tampa to run through the numbers. Hope you enjoy. Thanks for watching.
On the right track here. Okay, excellent. So let me go ahead and share my screen. Okay, so as you log into the dashboard, you're going to see a couple of different screens here. The first is your dashboard screen, which if you have multiple properties, generally they're going to show here. Now, your other properties that are the rent by room, those are actually associated with a different email. So they're under the other email
Oh, yeah.
account, which
Okay.
actually
Yep.
is nice because it doesn't combine your dashboard view. So we can just look
Yeah.
at this one. But in the future, if you do decide to grow your portfolio, all of these properties will show up here, make it nice and easy to see all of them and see how they perform as a whole. Since it's only the one property, it's not going to be a big difference. But if you click on the portfolio view screen, this will break down those properties and then you can see them individually to see, what that dashboard view looks like, how they're each performing
Oh, cool.
individually, and what the cash flow looks like. So in here, we have a couple of different things. We've got appreciation, tax benefits, cash flow, and principal pay down. These are, as you're aware, but these are your four returns of real estate. And it's one of the biggest benefits that come to real estate. It's one of the reasons real estate is so unique to any other asset class is you have four returns working for you. Just a quick snapshot of what these are looking like. The appreciation up 58%, so 132,000 since you purchased this property. So fantastic. I mean, we're sitting at about 156 in equity. Your equity position's growing. That is looking phenomenal. I'm so super happy with where the appreciation is.
Yep.
The tax
It was a good
benefits,
time in the market.
yeah, it was a great
If
time,
anybody got
right?
before 2020, you probably did fairly decent so
Yeah,
far.
absolutely. Well, and then also to refinance again in 2020,
Yeah.
saved a lot of people. So it's yeah, it's phenomenal. So then when we're looking at your tax benefits here, this is just straight line depreciation. So this is your simple tax
Okay.
savings. Now, depending on what your goals look like, we can also kind of show you what it may look like if we include bonus depreciation or cost segregation. But this is going to be your basic tax savings. Just
Yeah.
keep things really conservative here. But it's a fantastic benefit that often gets overlooked just because it's not realized in that same cash flow amount, but it's
Sure.
is a fundamental return when we're
But
looking
like
at.
this one, it helps because like if I'm basically breaking even right now, it's like I just need to
Mhm.
offset, the personal income. So it's definitely been helpful to lower the overall tax bill between my wife's business and my business income. So
Yeah, absolutely. And when we look at the cash flow, we're looking at, looks like over the last 12 months, we're looking at, a negative position. Now, that could be due to a couple of things, which we can actually take a look at and see what's going on with the property. But we can see the income coming in and then the expenses. And then this breaks down everything according to, what's reported in the software. So we have the
yeah,
taxes, the insurance, miscellaneous property management fees, as well as, the loan payment in here. But it
yeah,
looks like on a regular month, yeah, we're about breaking even, just from
yeah,
month to month, not a huge cash flow, increase. But with
right,
that being said, I'm not really worried about the property itself because of the total return. I mean, the total return's sitting at 151, so we're still
yeah,
looking at, in an excellent position. Cash flow is, again, just one piece of the puzzle, so not worried
sure,
at
yep.
all.
That's
The principal pay down, again, self-explanatory, but, every month you pay your mortgage and your tenant pays the rent, and ideally, if they're paying rent and they're paying on time, that's not coming out of your pocket, coming out of, from the tenant, so, another
Yeah.
return that does get overlooked. But sitting at 151, awesome for a property, especially to put 0 down initially is fantastic, so that's why
Right.
this
Yeah.
0%.
Is it basically the total return is appreciation added in the tax benefit added to the principal pay down? Then like of course my cash flow is negative, so it's sort of maybe subtracting there,
Yes,
basically.
exactly. Mhm.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep, and then this 0% return on investment, the only reason it shows 0 is because there was a 0% down. So
Yeah,
normally,
right. Yeah.
based off of your down payment compared to your initial investment compared to, the cash flow or compared to, each individual return. So
Yeah.
that's why that report's
You know,
0, to
I guess
say
you could also
it's
put
not
in like let's
reported.
say like, while I lived there, it's like let's say we put in 15 grand on doing little minor improvements. I guess in
Yeah,
theory, if you wanted to play with it, you could say, you could put that in, but again, it's like, somebody could do that, but not that I really care about it. But um that makes sense. If
yeah,
somebody wanted
definitely,
to
and there's a couple of
split
ways we
that.
can do that. One is in the input section, so this is where I said we can adjust a couple of things. So if we wanna adjust monthly expenses or HOA is applicable now or whatever it might be, we can actually
Yeah.
adjust that down payment, put something in there. The other way that we can do it is through a capital expenditure. So we can also mark that as,
Oh, sure.
33
That
paid
makes
in a
sense.
certain month or something like that. So it's just a one-time cost where the inputs are going
Right.
to be down
More of
payment
a
is one
monthly
time, but
thing.
monthly other expenses, that's gonna report every month. So,
Right.
definitely wanna put 15 grand in there, but
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Because yeah, it's
yeah,
obviously you always want to separate capex from just your own maintenance. So that makes sense.
yeah, absolutely. So then let me ask, as far as the insurance, I assume that do you get this evaluated every year, or what does that kinda look like for you?
Yeah, a guy does our all of our other properties, so it's not like super far off from market. It may even be down a little bit. We've seen some owners have a little bit of a decrease, but yeah, it's
Mhm.
definitely not like unreasonable for that age of property because it's actually a 100-year-old property too. So um pretty reasonable given the age and roof age and all that stuff too. It's like it's definitely not bad.
Yeah, yeah, I don't have any red flags of looking at that initially, so just
Yeah.
curious. One of the benefits about, at least in Florida is going to be a special state, so it's not always going to, work out this way, but we do have a master insurance policy that Lineage provides for properties in, outside of Florida. So any other properties for, owners looking to purchase in, diverse areas and whatnot, that master
Yeah.
insurance is generally more affordable than any other, insurance policy. Florida, of course, is special Florida. We've
Yeah,
got the
for sure.
hurricanes, tsunamis, all the things. So, um, yeah, it's a little bit different there, but it's something that we can help with in the future, especially when it comes to your owners.
Yeah. Cool.
Especially if they have multiple properties as well. If you had any properties outside, of Florida, then we could also look at helping and, decrease those insurance costs. But
Yeah.
um, right off the bat, I'm not worried. The HOA, there is no HOA, so that's not going to continue to rise and hurt you. Insurance is looking great. Taxes are just fine. And then it doesn't look like there's too many major expenses. How has
Yeah.
the maintenance and repairs been for you? Looks like these
No,
are pretty cheap.
it's been extremely low. If we went back,
Yeah.
pretty much the last 4 years, I don't, maybe it's because we lived there, but you know, where I normally tell investors, hey, just ballpark 10% a year. I mean, the last 3 years, before like the sort of uptick a little bit, I mean, it's probably been 5% or less. It's been like hardly anything's been happening there, which has been great. So it's just been a few things lately, but for the years prior, I'm extremely low.
Yeah,
AC
these
service,
are
needs, super
fantastic.
bad, especially
2025,
for that
great.
old of a house. Like, have not had like hardly any issues there. Uh,
Yeah,
so that's also where I've been like, yeah, I know I'm sort of break even, some tax benefits from a little bit of loss that shows, but it's also like, you know, once I renovate the back, that's where it'll be huge
yeah,
return because I had no money down anyway. So that's where I'm like, if I need some money, I could do a little HELOC on it or something. But that's where I haven't been overly motivated
yeah,
to sell it too, because location wise, it's really good to really close to downtown and stuff too. So I'm just kind of, just kind of sitting on it.
perfect. Well, and you said that your tenants have been in there a long term, you said over 5 years?
Yeah, ever since I moved out, the same tenant actually never missed a payment, and you know, they're actually probably market. They're actually if they vacated, definitely would not be able to put them back there for the same amount. So I never
Yeah,
raised their rent a little, most of it because I wanted to just keep them happy, keep them paying.
yeah,
and they had never gotten really they were never really, like, under market, maybe by an extra 100, 150, but in the last 18 months since the rents have come down, um, I'd probably be losing a few hundred extra bucks a month if they left today. I'd had to find somebody new probably, assuming that
Mhm.
I just re-rented the house. So now, even though they were like under market, and then now they're probably actually over market a little bit.
Yeah. Well,
But
that's
yeah, just there's
fantastic.
something to have said. Obviously, just tenant pays good on time. When you factor everything in, I think for most investors would agree, hey, we're willing to take a little bit less than try
Mhm.
to maximize and push somebody out, especially when they're staying in the property for a few years at least.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and when it comes from from an optimization standpoint, we look at a couple of things. Is one, obviously, we can check out the rent, see that it hasn't raised. And normally, the conversation that we'll have with your owners is, hey, your property manager, they have a strategy for this. They do this on a day-to-day basis. They know what this looks like. They're going to help coach and point you in the
Yeah,
right direction. So I'm not, concerned at all about that. But is always good just to have a second pair of eyes to see, okay, what is going on? We didn't just miss something, right? Kind of walk through that. So that would be my first thing is, looking at the rental income. Sounds like we're in a great position there. Looking at the expenses, not too worried with the, large maintenance items or anything. That
yeah,
also is fantastic. Insurance is still looking good. Um, the only thing that we could look at as far as optimization goes is if you are looking to grow the portfolio, sitting on about 156 in equity, it leaves you in a really good spot to start looking at some different strategies of, what
yeah,
increasing your cash flow might look like. So we
right,
can kind of walk through a couple of options, but ideally, looking at where your interest rate is 4.75, still looks really good, still really low. Like I said, anything below 5% is like awesome compared to, what we've
yeah,
seen over a couple of years.
right,
However, I have seen a couple of investors that I've worked with that, looking at their interest rate, sometimes they'll even have like a 2%, a 2.5, and they're like, oh, we'll never refinance ever again,
right,
that sort of thing. But if we are able to utilize some of that equity instead of letting it just sit in the house, we can
yeah.
actually use some of that, and refinance and still increase cash flow simultaneously between the 2.
Yeah, like this one would make sense where it's like, the tenant, let's say a tenant left in like 6 months or something. And because I actually just keep them month to month, just in case I wanted to sell or something. But
Okay.
uh because then if I renovated the back and I put new tenants, and let's say the value got pushed up to 425, then if I refinanced, I probably could pull out, you know, on a 60 to 80, something like that. Definitely enough to do a down payment on something else. Of course, my rate and stuff would increase. I'd be getting extra 1,000 on the back unit to probably make up
Mhm.
for the difference of the increased sort of loan payment, and maybe even cash flow, or worst case, just break even again. But then you sort of have just the same thing happening here, where it's just paying it down over time, not really losing a ton. But then I have pick up another duplex or something. So that definitely would make the most sense. I could always do it now too, but with it only needing maybe 15 to 20 grand to renovate the back, there's to get an extra 40 to 50K out of value is like kind of makes sense to maybe renovate, then refi, and then do
Yeah, not have to do it a year
possibly.
apart.
But
Mhm.
yeah, and maybe if rates settle down a little bit, but yeah, either way, or just like get an investment HELOC and just instead of refinancing, just get a little HELOC against it, and it could do that now and sort of buy something else too.
Yeah, which we've had a lot of investors do that, and I know that you're aware, but, just, for your team and whatnot, our lending team is fantastic, and because it's not the main revenue source of our business, can typically be more affordable than, most lenders and
Yeah,
whatnot. So it is something if you wanna explore, we can connect you with them. There's no, hard sell or
sure.
anything, but it's always something that we can do to see what options are available. The cool thing is that based off of when you purchased this 2018, then refinanced 2020, so you've had this for about 7-ish years, and built up 132 in appreciation. It Fantastic. I mean, your principal pay down is so minimal, but with the appreciation together, sitting at that 156 puts you in a really great spot. Um, I'm just thinking brainstorming wise, the only downside to waiting, depends on how quickly you were to, do the other unit and renovate that
Yeah,
unit. Only because, if you purchase something, 5 to 7 years is generally the mark where most investors can start to reposition, or where
yep,
it makes sense to reposition. So if you think it's gonna be within that timeline, now might be a great time to start looking at
yeah.
options. Again, these are all just
Makes
options
sense.
and opportunities. There's no
Yeah,
right
no,
answer.
for sure.
So,
For
yeah.
sure.
But in the dashboard here, you'll also have this marketplace section, and this is where it does get a little bit fun, is looking at the equity position of this 156. If we go back to the marketplace, it does show you, what we have available currently in our Lineage marketplace and what options are available and the performas for such as well. So even just looking at
Cool.
these are North Carolina townhomes, but the performa, they're broken out. And they're interviewed, vetted out before we put all this information together. So
Yep.
mortgage rates based off of what we get from our preferred lender, our in-house lender and all of that. So this is going to be as accurate as we can possibly make it without,
Yep.
having credit and all of the other things.
Yep.
Um, but looking at something like this, down payment wise, we're looking at about 43,000. So give or take, 50,000 for a property, cash flowing 476. So you're sitting at about 13% cash return.
Yep.
The cool thing is with 156, you could possibly pick up two of these and start cash flowing almost
Right.
900 bucks.
Yeah. It makes sense. You could sort by, I guess you could probably sort by return or by state or whatever
Mhm.
there. Because yeah, I mean that's what I tell investors that are looking to either pick up more here locally or they don't. Let's say they don't own in Tampa or just Florida yet, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, look around here, that's fine, but definitely like there's times to be in different markets, and yeah, I have a friend that owns a management company in South Carolina, where he could find sort of 1% rule all day long, and you haven't been able to really find that around here in a very long time. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I was encouraging investors like if you have either somebody you know or you used to live in a different state where there could be opportunity, like keep your options open because you know difference in just natural disasters driving up costs here from labor and taxes and stuff like
Sure.
it's like just keep an open mind to
Yeah,
be able
and that's
to explore the
where
market.
our acquisitions team can come into play as well, is because now that we're, partnered together, working together, they can start identifying those opportunities in Tampa, and start finding, opportunities in your market, so to
Yeah.
continue to keep investors there. But the cool thing is ultimately, whatever it is, all of these properties are going to be exclusive to Lineage. They're not going to be
Oh, cool.
generally MLS, or on Zillow, and they're all pre-negotiated, and vetted. So when it comes to the performas, they all have a different type of seller incentives that have been pre-negotiated to provide best opportunities for investors.
Yeah. No, that's cool. Yeah, I love newer product too. It's like
Mhm.
just if you can get something even just post 1980s or over 2000s or even just when you start to factor in over time repair costs and everything else, like there's definitely a big thing to be said for going after a newer product or spending more and getting something newer where maybe on a return basis even it may not be as great, but you're over time probably going to do better when you factor everything else into it.
Yeah, it just baffles me because looking at at this other property that you've got here, you probably couldn't purchase it again for 225. There's no way.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, when it comes to looking at the prices, looking at the purchase price of these properties, they're generally just going to make more sense. Interviewed, vetted, don't have to worry about going through all the ins and outs of, is this the right
Yeah.
property? Is it going to work? Or do we have a good property manager? All of that's already pre-done for you. Um, so generally what I would recommend then just in this situation based off of your equity position, based on where you are at currently, is we can connect you with our preferred lender and house lender if you'd like to just see what a HELOC might look like,
Sure.
see what refinance looks like. But again, there's no pressure to move forward on
Right.
anything.
Yeah.
Um, and assuming, if they have some information that's interesting to you, if you want to look at options, that's where our investment team comes into play, and they can actually customize an investment plan based on what your goals look like. So based on when you want to renovate, the other unit, and when you want to start picking up additional property, based on the
Yeah.
numbers, all of that, they can actually just send you property that's going to make the most sense for your portfolio, especially if you're looking for specific areas, if you're wanting to stick to Florida or whatever it is.
Yeah. Hey, that's cool. Yeah, I'm glad we were able to do this because it shows like a real live example of like my thought process is as we sort of advise clients, and then like a good example, clients that we're working with now that moved out from their primary and they're keeping it, for similar reasons, right? Low interest rate or good price when they bought it, and just gives them some things to think about. It's a little bit more interactive dashboard than just what most management company softwares provide from a analysis standpoint. Just these sort of static statements, and it's a little bit uh, funner just to run it through something like this. So, no, I appreciate you taking a look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. The other piece that I do really like is, because there are 4 returns that come from a property, I do have a couple of owners or investors who will tell me, "Oh, I'm negatively cash flowing. It's time I sell this property. It's not working for me." And I'm looking at it, I'm like, "Okay, well, we're sitting on,
Yeah,
151,000 your total return. Doesn't necessarily make sense to sell this property. Your tenants are phenomenal. They pay on time,
yeah,
all the things." So it just opens up a different perspective and a conversation of, hey, if you want to increase this cash flow, there's a really simple way. Let's use some of the equity and get you cash flow in an additional $1,000 a month. It's going to be huge.
right. Yeah, that's great. That's awesome.
So, what other questions do you have for me? Anything that you want your team to know? Any questions you have about your property, your portfolio, the returns?
Yeah, it was good. It was good to get it. I know I want to, just recap with the clients to send this out again, just kind of give them a real live example of what they're able to poke around in. And obviously, I know it works for single family. Remind me if it's also like 2 to 4 units could work for possibly as
Yes,
well as, or mostly
absolutely.
just okay.
Yeah. The only one we can sometimes have a little bit of complication is if we're looking at, 20 units or just depending on how the income's
Yeah,
reported, because typically we're going to look at that a little bit differently than we do at just, your normal cash on cash return.
sure.
Just so there's so many details that go into it. But yeah,
Yeah,
anything, your smaller units and multi units are going to work just fine in the system. So we'll be able to look at
sweet.
all. Yeah,
Well, that sounds good. Yeah, I appreciate your time today. And yeah, if you want to pop this over to me, I want to definitely get a good YouTube thumbnail together for this and rip it out in the next week to clients. Say, hey, this is a follow up. Here's a live example, and this is cool. I appreciate it.
perfect. Yeah, a couple of other pieces. I will send you dashboard logins. So all I have to do is just mark, that our portfolio review is complete. I'll give you
Oh,
login details so you can start using this as much or as little as you want.
yeah,
And then I'll also I'll make a connection with our lending team just so you have that connection and can start chatting with them, see what makes sense. Um, and we'll go from there.
awesome.
Okay,
That
great. Well,
sounds
thanks
good.
so
Thanks,
much.
Anna.